You ever been to Mount Ararat? See if you can find Mount Ararat here. Everybody recognize that? You got Egypt down here. We're coming in here to the Middle East. Now we're heading down to Mount Ararat. 3 countries are still arguing over who actually claims that land. Now imagine you were on that boat during the flood. And you turn around and you look out there and the waters are finally coming down. What do you think it would look like? Perhaps something like that? You see Mount Ararat sticking up out of the water somewhere? Some people actually think Noah's Ark landed in Mount Ararat. We don't know. We haven't found it. Wish we could, okay? But that would have been Mount Ararat. And Lesser Ararat is the small one over to the right, okay? Now remember, can you find this on a world globe now? After seeing this picture this morning, can anybody take you a globe and you'll be able to find Mount Ararat, right? Let's see if this will help you. You see it says it landed in the mountains of Ararat. That's an area that's over 1,000 square miles. It may have landed up here and be buried down in the snow somewhere. We don't know. We sure wish we could find it. Some people think that this might be a piece of it hanging over a ledge. Don't know. We haven't been able to find it. This particular creationist, a PhD in geology, has probably spent more research on this than anybody else in the creation field, okay? And he says, I'd love for the evidence to be there, but haven't found it yet. Some people claim to have done some sightings. Some people have actually claimed to have been there. But we don't know yet, folks. Now, some people who are supposedly creationists distort the evidence. Is there anything new? Are there people who call themselves Christians that distort the evidence? Like we said earlier, that's how you get denominations. Okay? People aren't willing to stand up and defend their position, and they run off and start their own religion. That's what they do, right? Well, this particular guy, if you ever see this, and it's on videos, this goes around. I've seen people in the churches of Christ say, hey, this guy's got a great video, Noah's Ark. That's not Noah's Ark, folks. This is not Noah's Ark. It's a lie. It's just deception. And if you want to go through the details, I'll show you how each one of the things he claims is true turned out to be false. Even people who believed in what he was saying went over there with him, totally believing. Then once they saw the evidence, they said, it's false. In fact, it's just a geological mudslide. There's another one in another region. No big deal. There's 3 more in another region. Just a geological mudslide. But the real ark was 300 cubits long. Wow, what a boat. But if you don't know what a cubit is, it won't do you any good, right? What if a cubit's only this big? 300 of those isn't that big, is it? No, cubit comes from the Hebrew word which means forearm. It just means the distance from here to the tip of your finger. One of the shorter ones will be about 18 inches, 1.5 feet. So 300 times 1.5 for all you math guys, 450 feet, okay? There's a 1-story house sitting in front of a reconstructed model of Noah's Ark. That's what it might have looked like with the snow around it. Here's a Noah's Ark cresting a 50-foot wave. You imagine that wave right there being 50 feet tall? It was a big barge, folks. It had so much capacity inside, you could take everything off of railroad cars, 569 of them, and stick them inside that boat. This was a monster boat, folks. Man didn't start making things this big until after the 1850s. In modern times, we got some Chinese made some wooden boats this type size a few thousand years ago, but not Europeans. Now, raise your hand if you ever heard somebody say that the flood was just local. It was in your newspapers within the last year or two. The Black Sea shows evidence of a local flood. Another lie, but that's another issue, okay? If they turn around and say it was a local flood, just ask them this little cartoon. He says, look now at that beautiful rainbow. Oh, by the way, this is obviously the dad speaking to his son, and his son speaking back to him. Look at that beautiful rainbow. It's a promise from God he'll never again flood the entire earth as he did in Noah's day. Now, his son has run off to college, and what does the son say? Oh, my Christian college professor said that Noah's flood didn't cover the entire earth. Some people who call themselves Christians teach that, don't they? And the father says, he told you just a localized flood? Well, that's what he said. Now notice where they're sitting at having this conversation. So he believes that God promised to never again send a localized flood? No, folks. They're sitting in the middle of a flood on top of a house right here. It's being flooded everywhere, right? If it was a localized flood, then God lied. Anybody that teaches that the flood was local or calling God a liar. You want to stand before God on Judgment Day and say, I called you a liar? You better change. Another way to answer that question, was it just a local flood, is very simple. Read your Bibles. No, it took about 100 years to build this boat. Why would you build a boat? It took you 100 years to build. It was just going to be a local flood. Why don't you just move? Wouldn't that be a lot simpler? Okay, God, you're going to destroy this whole region right here. Okay, we'll move. I can get someplace in 100 years. No big deal. Move the animals with you. Okay. Why build a boat? Worldwide flood legends. What happened to the dinosaurs? We got the legends about them. If they went onto the boat, that means they had to get off the boat. If they got off the boat, that means they existed within the last 4,400 years. When they got off the boat, though, a lot of the animals died off. Not just dinosaurs. Did you know there was more variety and larger sizes of all animals on this planet than what we see today? I thought evolution said we're getting bigger over the years and we're getting more variety. No, folks. The flood buried the world. There was bigger kinds, more variety of animals then than there is today. And the average age, 912, remember that one? But very quickly, after the flood, there's Noah. Very quickly, people only lived to 400 years of age. 400? That's pretty old, right? And then within a few more generations down to 200 years, and just a few more generations down to about 100 years seem to be the maximum age. So what about dinosaurs and man? Let me see. If he lived today, would you want to be around him? No, I wouldn't want to get near those teeth, would you? I got some Tyrannosaurus Rex teeth replicas over there if you want. They're about this long. Well, let's go to what the secular world teaches. Remember that National Geographic? Dr. Brad Hare went and got the whole page right there. Here's what it found out they said. Not only does it say no human being has ever seen a live dinosaur, look at the bottom of the page. Can you read that small print at the very bottom? Let me help you out just a little bit. And turn around and says, use this geo guide to what? To help capture the interest of young readers and stimulate discussion with them. Well, stimulate discussion on what? Well, the very opening sentence up here, folks. No human being's ever seen a live dinosaur. They're going to use these type of materials to get you all to believe a lie. Let's see if we can prove that it's a lie. Well, an evolutionist, now he hates creation. This evolutionist said the following. If you could find evidence that man and dinosaurs lived at the same time, it would shake the foundations of evolutionary theory. Well, let's shake some foundations here, folks. But before we go through this, I'm going to pick on, is the coach here, Mike? I'll pick on Mike then, okay? We're going to put Mike in jail. You basketball players, tell your coach he's going to jail, okay? He's going to go to jail for what? He's going to go to jail for first-degree murder. Whew. Police come in the back door. They come hauling him off. Mike's taken off for first-degree murder. Now, you all have watched enough TV shows to know that what is first-degree murder? First-degree murder means that a whole bunch of things had to happen before it's called first-degree murder, right? All the following evidences must be true. If any one of them is not true, it's not first-degree murder, right? So all the following evidence, they have to show motive, they have to show intent, they have to show it wasn't a mistake or an accident, they had opportunity, and have some sort of evidence that he was there. That's what they have. Otherwise, it's not first-degree murder. Take, for example, what if they turn around and said, well, you're guilty, Mike, of first-degree murder, but we don't have any evidence of any motive on your part. Well, if you don't have any motive, then it's not first-degree murder, right? So therefore, we could turn around and say, oops, no motive, no first-degree murder, conclusion's wrong. Well, what if they said, well, we think you're guilty, Mike, but we can't find the intentions on your part to do it. You didn't plan it. You didn't do it. Well, then it can't be first-degree murder, can it? Or what about you were mowing your grass, your lawnmower blade broke, flew off, bounced off something else, and killed your neighbor in the throat. Ooh, that's gross. Okay? It was an accident. Could they call him first-degree murder for that? No. So if it's not first-degree murder because it's just an accident, all I have to do is prove that one of these is wrong, and the conclusion turns out to be wrong. What if he was in Seattle when the murder occurred? It'd be kind of difficult to get him for first-degree murder, wouldn't it? Or what about they have no evidence, no fingerprints, no eyewitnesses, no anything else? Well, then we know he wouldn't be guilty of first-degree murder. Every single one of those boxes must be true. If any one of them is false, their conclusion is false. It's the same thing here about man never seeing a live dinosaur. all the following evidences must be equal to a 0 in order for their conclusion to be correct. Such as, there must be 0 evidences from archaeology, 0 evidences from history or legends. There must be 0 evidences from the fossil record, 0 evidences from written records. In order for them to say no human being has ever seen a live dinosaur, the evidences must be goose eggs, 0. Let's go look at some evidences. If they got off the ark, wouldn't history maybe have recorded some of these great creatures? The word dinosaur wasn't invented until 1845, around then, okay? Before that, they were called dragons. You ever heard of dragons? Raise your hand if you heard of dragons. How'd you hear about a mythological creature? Because it wasn't mythological a few thousand years ago, folks. Dragons actually existed on this planet. What's a dragon? It's a long-necked, long-tailed creature. Some of them just had long tails and short necks, but in general, long neck, long tail, right? Now, we got legends out there. I'm not saying that every single one of these legends is true. I would say quite surely this neck is a bit exaggerated. There's little hands up there. No. But just because people exaggerate dragons in the past doesn't mean dragons never existed. In fact, here's the Gilgamesh. Remember them talking about a flood? It also talked about a dragon. You mean Gilgamesh slaying a dragon? Well, how about Ziegfeld slaying the dragon Fifnar? Or what about the city of Nuremberg? They renamed a whole city because of this dragon-like creature, a triceratops. They gave a description of it. It's a triceratops. Why'd they do that? What about the Chinese legend? After the flood, he's cleaning off the land, drying all up, marshlands. And maybe his wife didn't like the kids living next to Tyrannosaurus Rex. So she said, go get rid of those guys. So he drove the dragons from the marshlands. Or what about the Bible? The Bible mentions the word dragons over 20 to 35 times, depending on your translation. The Bible mentions dragons. Remember about that tale of a cedar tree in that historical account? Yes, no problem, folks. What about this Herodotus, the great Greek historian? He talked about flying serpents. Flying serpents? From the dinosaur time? Yeah, that's right, folks. Or what about Jewish historian Josephus, writing back about Moses in those days? He talked about flying serpents. Or what about Alexander the Great? He's considered a real historic person, right? He says his soldiers, now remember, these soldiers are conquering the world. They were usually greatly outnumbered, and they slaughtered everybody. And it says his soldiers were scared because some dragons stuck their heads out of caves. You think a dragon about this tall stuck his head out of a cave and scared those soldiers? That wouldn't scare a soldier. This tall? Nah. It must have been a decent size. I'm not talking 126 feet long. Remember, before the flood, they got bigger. After the flood, they didn't get as big. But these dragons really existed. Why would Alexander write about these things?